Hey, sis.
Hey, sis.
Whitney, I think this is the first time that we've had half sisters on the show. We've had best friend sisters, we've had stepsisters, but these siblings are half sisters. They have different moms and the same dad, and they live on two separate continents, which we haven't had before.
We have not had anyone from over the pond.
Right.
No, we haven't. I mean, no, I don't know if you have actually. What am I saying?
No.
Well, Natasha, who's joining us, her birth mother is actress Natalie Wood, who's the legendary, groundbreaking Hollywood movie star who the whole world knows and loves still to this day. But she also has an extraordinary mother, her stepmother, Julia Gregson, who's an award-winning journalist and writer and married to your father, Richard Gregson. And the two of them gave you your little sister, Poppy, who is also with us today. So welcome to Hey Sis Eat This, Natasha and Poppy.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
This feels so natural to be doing something with Poppy.
Yeah.
I love this. When we talked about this, Natasha, I was like, oh, this just sounds so great. And I can't wait to dive.
Courtney and I were having lunch and we were talking about the podcast, which I love. I'm obsessed with it now, you guys. We listen to every episode.
Oh,
and I was telling Courtney, I was like, I think you should have me and Poppy on because we are sisters, but we grew up in this, even though we grew up across the pond from each other, we learned how to cook in the same kitchen because of my stepmom, Poppy's mom, Julia, and our dad.
So cool.
That's amazing.
Poppy, how far apart are the two of you?
Is it 13 years? Yeah, 13 years.
I just remember so clearly when Daddy called me to tell me that Julia was pregnant.
Oh.
I was so excited. I was jumping up and down.
Aww.
He was not as excited as I was.
No. A 52-year-old dad was not his goal in life.
Well,
oh my gosh.
But the minute you were born, I think he changed his tune, right?
Definitely. And it's nice actually, even though, when I was younger, 13 years felt a bit huge. The older you get, the closer it gets somehow. So that's lovely.
Isn't that the truth? We're 6 years apart and we really didn't have a super close relationship growing up until Whitney was in college. And we just keep getting closer and closer, So
that's how I feel. It's so nice. It's so nice to have
sisters
siblings,
or everything.
Sisters, yeah.
And there's a sprinkling of other sibs in there too, right? There's a big mix of
there's loads of us.
halves and steps and
Yes.
What's the grand total?
Poppy is the most stable of all my sisters.
I hate to agree.
Whitney's the most stable of the two of us too, so it's okay.
Well,
it depends on the day, right, Whitney?
Yes. Yeah, my mom might disagree with that.
Yeah.
My dad learned to calm down by the time he cracked fatherhood by the time he got to 52. So I was
Yeah.
It's nice. Very experienced then.
Exactly. You had it easy breezy by then.
Also, Poppy was so lucky because by the time our dad had Poppy, he was mostly retired. So she had him all the time. I mean, he was a stay-at-home dad, right?
Traveling a lot before and with the other kids, and that's really nice.
Yeah.
More present.
That is nice. That is.
Yeah.
But we're here to celebrate Mama Julia or Mummy Julia.
Oh yeah, Mummy. We're gonna have to call her Mummy Julia since Mummy
with an English accent.
Mummy. Yes, Mummy Julia. But Natasha, she was a mother figure for you since very young, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, I actually know Julia longer than Poppy knows Julia because I met her when I was 9. And she was literally, Poppy knows this story, but like I watched her, our dad used to have an apartment in Malibu and I was spending the night at his apartment in Malibu and I heard somebody walking down the like the wooden steps, and I looked out the window, and there was this like tall redhead with like dressed like a hippie with like earrings, and just the complete opposite of my mom. And I was literally spellbound. And then when I actually met her, she was just like my immediate favorite person. Like we just, she says this too. I mean, we just clicked from the very beginning. And she started cooking, you know, for me and my best friend Tracy at the beach house in Malibu. Her and my dad would cook for us, mostly English food, because that's what I loved. And then when they bought their house and moved to Wales, then I started spending all my summers there. And Poppy came along, and it, you know, yeah, she's a magical creature, and anybody that meets her just like dies for her. Would you agree, Pops?
Well, what's so lovely with this story is I think, yes, she is, but I think my mum and Natasha have always had this real connection. And my mum wasn't even sure she wanted to have children. And then when she met my dad, and obviously my dad was much older, and he had had other children, and he definitely didn't want to have any more children. But when she met Natasha, she was like, I am so in love with this little creature. I need to have one as well, because obviously Natasha was in America, and then they were moving back to the UK. She's like, I need a child, like I need a baby. So I think it was both ways. And I mean, I have to say, I think I am biased, but I think my mum is pretty magical. And still now watching her, because we live right next to her now, so with my children, she's amazing. They find her magical too. She's just very chilled and fun and
hippie-ish, like you
kind
said.
of hippie, but she's kind of like a deeply sort of calm person as well, isn't she, Tash? Like, she's a very mellow person, and I think that's a very sort of lovely vibe for people to be around.
I remember it was the summer, and I was over with my best friend Tracy, and we were having tea. And for some reason, she was like, Julia is someone that always has a lot of things going on at once. So she was like doing the laundry, making tea, whatever. And she sat down and took a swig from a teacup. And she goes, oh my God, I've just drunk bleach.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh my God, like she's going to drop dead right in front of us. What are we going to do? And my dad just like calmly picked up the phone and called whatever the number was for, you know, 911 and poison control. And he like, very calm, like, And then he hung up the phone. He goes, darling, you just drink milk. And she goes, oh. And so she drank some milk, and everything was fine. And I mean, that's like such a great example of life at Whitebrook Farm. Would you agree, Pops?
That's hilarious. Well, I'd like to make this a public service announcement. If you accidentally drink bleach, the remedy is milk. That we learn something new every day. Oh my God. And why, how did bleach end up in a teacup? I mean, is that just,
that is classic
did the Brits use
as well?
That is classic Whitebrook Farm.
To use the teacup as the measure.
What's Whitebrook Farm? What's Whitebrook Farm? Is that the home where they were living?
House that Natasha, so that's the kind of the Wales house that I grew up in. My mum and dad moved, so they moved back from living in LA, and they lived in London for a little bit, and they moved out to Wales to Whitebrook Farm. And this was where Natasha would come every summer, and then where I grew up, and now we're living here. My children are growing up at Whitebrook Farm, so it's lovely.
That's so nice. So is it like the countryside?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Middle of the countryside.
And your parents are British, so how did they end up in Wales?
It was finger on a map. I mean, literally, they just, again, classic them, that I feel like they kind of always, my mum and I were talking about this the other day, actually, that it sounds smug, and it isn't, but they sort of seem to just make decisions, and it always somehow seems to work. And so they literally just put their finger on a map and moved to Wales, and it was a complete dump, this house. I mean, complete dump. And and then they just kind of did it up, and slowly but surely it became a real sort of family place for all of us.
Did you just love that, Natasha, going and visiting in the
Oh my
summers?
God. Yeah, I mean, it was hard. It was both. Like, there were times when it was uncomfortable because it was literally like, I mean, couldn't have been more different than the way I was growing up in
Right.
Los Angeles.
Right.
You know, there was the hot water tap and the cold water tap, and you had to get a bucket and mix it together to wash your hair.
Oh my
There were no
God.
showers. I mean, the showers came, you know, the house
Mhm.
modernized as I got older, but it was just I mean, I think it's why I'm such a stable person, because
Mhm.
I just had all of this time in this incredibly sort of like within having a normal life with normal stable parents, you know, and who had their priorities sort of in the right place.
Mhm.
Right.
Very
And-
different from the Hollywood childhood. You would were living in LA, and then you would come to this kind of rustic farmhouse life and in the Wales, in a different country.
Completely. And like, you know, every night they made dinner, and, you know, we sat at the table every night, and it was just it's been like the anchor for me in my life, and how I know, I just always knew that that was the avenue I needed to go down to have a healthy, happy life.
Wow. And Poppy, what was it like for you when Natasha would come and visit? I know you were
Oh
very
my
little, but
I mean, I still am, but I was obsessed with Natasha because I was an only child, essentially. I was absolutely, and I was desperate for siblings, hence why I've had 3 children, because I was quite a sort of lonely little kid. And then suddenly this person would arrive, and she was so sweet to me and always bought me loads of presents, and all that. She was coming from LA, and she'd give me all this, you know, gossip, and we'd chat, and it was like this magic. I mean, I was obsessed with her, and
like Hollywood gossip?
well, just more like what was going on in her love
teenage
life.
gossip.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
like,
Teenage
you know,
gossip.
kind of like,
Got it.
and also, you know, it was at a time when I was like, you know, what about this and what about that, and hearing about boys. And she would turn up, and then every time she left, I would sob. I would just fall into like 2 days of, because it was like basically being gifted a sibling for a few weeks,
Yeah.
and then suddenly they were taken away again. So
Aww.
it was hard. I really,
Sure.
and even to the age where she had Clover, but her daughter, I was like, how am I going to feel about, because like I want to be her little person, and then
Yeah,
she's
you
her
were.
little person. I was almost kind of jealous at first
Yeah.
because I was so besotted with her, but now I'm besotted
Aw.
with her too. So
What a
But
beautiful.
I remember this funny moment where Poppy was in love with Leonardo DiCaprio.
oh my God,
How old were
I
you,
was about to
Pops,
say.
when
I
you were in
think I
love
was
with
like
him?
11 or 12.
Okay,
Who
so
wasn't?
she was in love with him,
Yeah.
and she wrote to him for like to get an autographed, you know,
I
photo or
was
something.
so cool.
And so my younger sister Courtney was friends with him. And so I was at my house, at my daddy Wagner's house one day, and Leo was there.
No.
And I said to him, "Oh my God, my littlest sister Poppy it has the biggest crush on you. Can you sign an autograph for her?" So we we just found like a piece of paper, and he signed like, "Dear Poppy, I hear you're a real cutie. Love, Leo." And I like called my daddy Gregson. I was so excited. I probably like FedExed the autograph to her. Like I was like gifting her this like, you know, pot of gold.
Yeah.
And she's like, "That's not his real autograph. I don't believe it was really him. It doesn't match the autograph that I have that from the picture." I'm like, no, because that's the fake one.
Right.
This is the real one. And she didn't believe me for years.
Oh my
I still got it.
You do? Oh, good. I'm so
do?
glad.
Got it. It's on like a
I was about
gorilla
to ask
card.
you.
And what was so funny though for me is like exactly as Natasha was saying, with these kind of juxtaposition between these two worlds. I had this world where I had this sister in LA, and she was kind of friends with these famous people. And then I tell my friends, like, I've got Leonardo DiCaprio's autograph, and no one believed me. Everyone was like, yeah, sure you do. Like, come on.
Right. Or you're
You
like,
know?
stop
So it's just,
bragging. Yeah.
yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Oh
Oh,
my God.
Pops, that must have been, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think that you could call Leo and get one for my sister, Courtney?
Yeah, I still
I
have a
mean,
crush
I,
on
Courtney,
him.
I'll
I
send you a
lost touch
screenshot.
with the guy.
Yeah.
Okay,
Dang it.
sorry, Court.
That's all right. That's all right. One day.
Yeah.
Well, I want to hear more about Mama Julia's career. I mean, she's an award-winning journalist. She's covered everything from like Vietnam, India, Australia, all around the entire
She
world,
interviewed
really.
Muhammad Ali.
Yes. Tell us more about that career, Poppy.
Well, I think by the time I was born, she was because she was 37, which then was kind of late, which is crazy because now it's not late at all to have kids. But
Yeah.
I think she paused for a while because she just wanted to sort of soak up motherhood for a while.
Sure.
And then because she had moved to Wales, she wasn't in LA anymore. She wasn't in Sydney or able to kind of go out and sort of meet these people and, do all these kind of amazing interviews. So a lot of that was kind of scaled back. And actually I should ask her whether she found that hard to sort of step down from such a sort of exciting career. And then I think it took a while for her to kind of rebuild up living in Wales. I mean, she worked for like Good Housekeeping and The Times and, still amazing titles. But
Just
I think what
writing
she
for
really wanted
magazine.
to do, what she really wanted was to write a novel. She really, really wanted to write a novel. So that's where her energies went. And that's when she became, I feel like she really found her own kind of financially, creatively. She was able to sort of really put her heart and soul into writing. And she was very absorbed when she was writing, like very absorbed. And as I said, when we first started, this was like her dream to have this like hut, this writer's hut that she could escape to and just write and write. But also she was at home, she worked from home. So really I had a dad who had semi-retired and a mum who worked from home. So they were very present, which was really, really lucky for me, I think.
Yeah. Natasha, when you first met Julia, Mama Julia, was she in kind of that career of the journalist world?
She was, but I mean, she wasn't, I don't remember talking much to her about her work, because she was into horses and I was into horses. And she was into long walks on the beach and I was into long walks on the beach. And she was into animals and I was into animals. And she was into stories and I was into stories. So we just had so much in common. And every weekend, or the weekends that I was there, Julia and my dad would take my best friend Tracy and I horseback riding. And
In Malibu?
In
Wales?
Malibu, yeah, like in the hills. And it was actually in Agura. And then, we'd cook, or we just had so much fun with Julia because she gave me this freedom that I did not have growing up with my mom and my stepdad in Beverly Hills. My mom was a movie star and she was worried all the time that I was going to be kidnapped, or we had so much security at my house. And my dad and Julia would just let me and Tracy like walk on the beach for 3 hours. I didn't even have to check in with them. I would meet people. I would take their dogs home. I just was like, I was free. And it was
so
completely
two
liberating.
totally different childhood.
Yeah, completely. And I would come home on Sunday afternoon from being with my dad and Julia, and I would go into my room and I would cry because I really missed that freedom. I wanted to see my mom and my stepdad, but it was just such a different. And also I was an only child with them. And at my mom's house, I had my younger sister, Courtney. And so I got all this attention.
Right.
And, it was magic.
That sounds like
a beautiful memory.
Yeah.
I'm an equestrian now. Does she
you
still
are?
ride?
Well, Poppy rode actually for the country of England.
Oh my gosh.
She was in ago. But you did.
You remember coming to watch me, Tash, at those days?
Yes. And I remember when your tooth got knocked out. I was there.
Oops.
And they had to Yeah, I was there because I think I was shooting that movie in Bulgaria, and I had come over, and they had, or maybe I'm misremembering and I wasn't there, but I just know the story. But
It's as
anyway,
if you were there.
her front tooth
Yeah.
got knocked out,
Yeah.
and they had to search
How?
for it like in the dirt.
The horse's head.
When you were going over a jump?
Yeah. Hit you in the face.
And they put it in a glass of milk, right?
Milk
and
again.
milk again.
Milk,
And
I was
took-
thinking the remedy for everything.
It is I know. And anyway, they took her to the hospital and they just stuck the tooth back in, right?
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
How
exactly.
old were you?
I was 13, so the worst age like to
Yeah,
have.
They were
Okay.
permanent
32.
already. That was a permanent tooth.
Yeah, then I had to have implants and everything. All I remember from that day, though, is that my dad had made these amazing sausage sandwiches, and I was so excited about eating them, and I couldn't bite into this baguette.
Oh my God. I love that you bring it back to food. That's really,
Like literally, when I think of that day, I just think of this like sausage baguette with stuffed with like
Damn
buttery.
sausage baguette.
Oh.
Yeah, and I
You
was
still
so
have one
pumped.
working tooth. It just wasn't enough to get
Yeah,
through
you
that.
couldn't just
Well,
like put it all
over
on
the
one
other
side of the mouth.
Yeah.
No, I was not in a good state, but I was
That
dead.
is so funny.
Well, this is great, this segue to food, because I wanted to ask Natasha, because you told me, and you've said it already on the podcast, that Mommy Julia really taught you how to cook. And is that something that started in childhood, or was that more of something that you did together as adults?
No, it started at the beach house in Malibu, where she taught me how to make fruit crumble. From this, she's like a very famous English cookbook author named Delia Smith.
Okay.
Right?
Mhm.
Pops, that's her name, right? Delia Smith? Yeah. And it's like a very, very simple crumble recipe. And I remember what I loved about it was that you would mush the butter up with your hands, in with the oats and the brown sugar and the white sugar. And so it was like Play-Doh,
Playing in the mud.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then any fruit. And it was sort of like a simple thing that, a 10-year-old could learn how to make.
Sure.
But then when they moved to Wales, obviously the cooking went up many notches, because in Malibu, the kitchen was small, but they always made me shepherd's pie. That was like my absolute favorite dish.
I was going to ask, was it shepherd's pie? Yeah.
To this day, the first night that I arrive in Wales, there is shepherd's pie on the table.
Aww.
That's so awesome. Do you think she'll share that shepherd's pie recipe with us for us to put
Definitely.
on the website? Oh.
I want the crumble too.
And the crumble recipe, yeah, for sure.
What was the favorite fruit that you liked with it?
Rhubarb.
Oh, we gotta do more Courtney. We
I
gotta do
know.
more rhubarb.
I
I'm
know,
not
we do.
comfortable
I love
with
rhubarb.
it yet.
It's so delicious, especially if you mix it with strawberries or raspberries.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
I don't
divine.
know why I'm intimidated by it. I
I
guess
don't
because
either.
it's
It's
stalks,
because they're those
you know?
weird
Yeah.
stalks. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
you just
I don't know
chop
what
it
to
up
do
and
with
you
that.
add a lot of sugar
Sugar.
and you saute it, and then it's kind of like chunky, and then you put it in the dish and you put the crumble on top and then you bake it. It's like so
I
easy.
do love a
So
crumble.
good.
Is it kind of like celery?
It's like a
Yeah.
pink
Yeah.
celery, yeah.
Yeah.
Green
okay,
and
okay.
red and yeah.
All right,
But
we gotta
in
tackle
England
it.
they call dessert pudding.
Right.
Oh, even when it's not pudding, it's just anything's pudding.
It's everything's pudding. What are we
Everything.
having
Oh.
for pudding?
Oh, I didn't know
Oh,
that
that's
actually.
cute.
And Julia, also another one of her amazing qualities is that she always thought about dessert.
Yeah.
Like a lot of parents, they make dinner, but they don't worry about dessert.
Yeah.
Like me.
Julia makes fools. So fool is like a type of dessert. She makes crumbles. She makes all
Wow.
kinds of desserts. Like it's a very important part of
Wow.
the
She
meal.
loves to bake and she loves sweets, obviously.
She does.
We
love
never had
food.
dessert.
Yeah.
I
Mom
said-
only
always-
made one thing over the summer. Like she would get the sherbet that was like the orange, the green, and
yeah.
the red, and then she'd take frozen strawberries with a little bit of water and puree it like in the
Ooh.
blender,
Oh
Uh-huh.
yeah.
and then she'd pour that over the sorbet like a sauce.
Oh,
I remember
Ooh.
that.
It was
Yeah.
really good.
That sounds really good.
Wait, what's fools?
A fool is sort of like, it's like a creamy fruit-based dessert, right, Pops?
Like almost like a mousse, but kind of more smooth than a mousse and more kind of sharp, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
tart?
with like a bit tart. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jules makes a lot of fools.
Ooh, I
And
want
she'll
a
make
fools.
Yeah, she's so good like that.
Yeah, she does. But she also, you're right, Courtney, she's got a really sweet tooth. So it's partly for everyone
She
else and
enjoys
partly
it.
for herself.
I think you have to really enjoy baking too to be able to get
Yeah.
dessert on the table.
The other thing that is that after dessert, she always whips out the dark chocolate.
Oh my
And the
god!
tea.
From
I
this
love
like
this
little
woman.
from this like little secret cupboard, and she would always bring the chocolate out, right, Pops?
Pudding after
Yeah,
the pudding.
exactly.
I
It's
guess
like
you would
the
say.
full shebang. So it would be like the pudding, the dark chocolate, some cheese, and then my dad would always get this like
Oh,
frozen
I want to go to
vodka
Wales.
in the back of the fridge.
Oh,
And
right,
maybe
Vodka?
right.
over the top. Yeah, the vodka.
Just straight up?
Yeah, with the
Yeah.
what's it called, Tash?
Bison grass. It's
Bison grass.
bison grass. It's
Yeah.
Polish vodka called Zubrovka.
Okay.
Okay.
And he would keep it in the freezer, and then
Your dad would keep it in the freezer?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then at the very, very end of the meal, which the dinners were, what, 3 hours, 2 hours?
long.
They were long.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like an unfolding of conversation, food, truth telling,
Oh.
joke telling, right, Pops?
Love it.
Would you say?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like my dream.
So this was like an every night dinner was like a thing then. Like a whole
Yeah, but
production.
you didn't have to be like dressed up or anything.
Mhm.
Even though they always were kind of not
Oh,
dressed
really?
up, but they would like Jules wouldn't you say Jules would like put on, she'd be in the kitchen or she'd be whatever, and then she'd go upstairs and she'd put on like a different shirt with like maybe a pretty like necklace, and our dad would put on like a button down. But often I was just like in my pajamas, and Poppy was too.
Yeah, and I think, and actually I've realised this now living in Wales, that because you don't have the kind of thing of being in a city and going out for dinners and doing all of those things, when you have people to come and stay, you want to make dinners like a real occasion, like a chance to like put on nice clothes. And so I kind of get the whole thing around it now of
Entertain.
like entertaining, exactly, like making the whole thing about, chatting and having wine and eating food and talking and being silly.
Really
and
making it special.
Yeah, exactly. Like it feels, if you're going to have people, you kind of want to go to town and make it special. And also because, it's
I know we feel that way.
Do you feel like that?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I don't always get out of my yoga clothes, but I do think there's an effort to make dinner special. Like I always use cloth napkins, and I put placemats down, and I sometimes light candles. And I mean, it could be, even if it's a weeknight, like I just want to have some reverence around sitting down, and that's the time we come together, and the only time we all come together, really. So my dinners aren't 3 hours, but I think that's so lovely. Mama Julia makes me want to take off my aloe before dinner now and just put on a button down. I'm sorry. I think what?
I don't know about that.
I know. That's a tall order. I know.
I mean, leave the aloe and put a button on, but
yeah,
maybe
aloe
leave
pants
the
and
pants.
a button down. You said there were a lot of deep conversations around the dinner table. I love that. So, like, what were some of those topics that would frequently come up when you guys were growing up?
I feel like our dad and Julia Julia, because she was a journalist, she just knew how to ask questions and draw people out. And our dad, because he was like such a raconteur and had lived this incredibly fascinating life, he also knew how to ask questions. And so we would just always talk about, often boys, right?
Okay.
Boys, men, sex, heartbreak, dating. Would you agree, Pops?
Yeah, and actually we were laughing about this as well, because I remember when Natasha said to them, Daddy, are you and Julia still having sex? And I was like 50, and I was like, absolutely disgusted. I was like, how can you
Oh my gosh.
Asked this question. Like, it was such a free for all at the table.
Okay,
And at the dinner
how old
table.
were you when
Yeah.
that must have been horrifying? How old were you when she asked
Horrifying.
that question?
I was like 15, like at the worst age, the age where you do not want to know if your parents are still having sex. Exactly.
Oh my God.
And were
I
they?
don't know.
What
I
was
must
the
have been
answer?
in my 20s,
Of course,
right? When I
darling.
asked that question. Yeah, exactly.
I hope your rooms weren't next to theirs that night.
Thank God they weren't. Thank God they weren't.
No. But and then I think also they always would ask, they were great asking guests, you know, because there was always guests there. I would come with my girlfriends, and then when I started to have, you know, serious relationships, I would bring like my boyfriends, or I had an ex-husband. Your girlfriends were always crying at the table, right?
Yeah. My school friend. So when I was 11, I went to boarding school. I was a weekly boarder, so every weekend I'd come home. And very long story short, our dad was kind of abandoned in Canada during the war. So he always had this thing about make sure you ask people back for the week. You know, if people are staying at school during the weekend, make sure you invite them back to Whitebrook. So I'd always have friends back to Whitebrook. And there's always this joke still to this day with my school friends that if you go to Whitebrook, careful because you're going to cry because they get your secrets out of you. And I think it was just like this thing where, because they were quite open and quite liberal, I suppose, that they would just ask the questions, or, you know, we'd have quite deep conversations often, actually. It wasn't sort of surface chat, it was proper chat. And
She's a journalist. She knows how to get to the heart of the issue.
Inquiring.
And
Proper chat. I like that. Natasha, in 2020, you produced and released your documentary, Natalie Wood, What Remains Behind, which I've seen twice now, because the first time I saw it was several years ago, I guess. And I was just like, oh my God, this is fascinating. And I mentioned to you, I just felt like I was like sitting with your family and hearing about your mother and your dad and having all these wonderful people really show their love of your mom, Natalie. And it really came across that Julia loved Natalie. What was their relationship like?
Yeah, she did love my mom. And I used to try to make my mom jealous about how close I was to Julia, or how beautiful I thought Julia was. I would be like, Julia is so tall and beautiful. Her red hair is just like a sunset. My mom, I think my mom knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know why I did that. It wasn't very nice, but Julia tells this amazing story about how one day my mom just showed up at the beach house without calling, and like had tea with my dad and Julia. And Julia said that she felt like my mom just wanted to know because I would come home and I would tell her these stories about
You're so
Malibu.
enamored by her. Yeah.
And so I think, and Jules said that I think your mom just wanted to see what all the fuss was about, you know. And
I know.
Joey said that my mom was so kind to her. Right, Pops?
Yeah. I mean, it's I was literally just thinking as you were talking, Tosh, that, I mean, obviously it goes without saying, but if your mum was still alive, like she died before I was born. And I just feel like I would love to have known her and for us all to have had a relationship, you know. Through time, things get easier. And obviously, you know, there's always going to be trickiness when families, you know, parents split and whatever. But really, I think everyone did a pretty solid job. And even my dad and RJ, you know, they really were good friends. And like, you know, when my dad died, RJ sent over this like huge bunch of flowers, and just, you know, like they did well. They really did. And I wish that Natalie could have been more of a part of all of that.
They were both such independent women with these big careers, and so creative and artistic. One an actress, one a writer, and breaking boundaries for women in their fields. They probably would have had an incredible admiration for each other, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I think that my mom would have been and was so appreciative that Julia was so kind to me, you know, when I first met her. And It's true. I think they would have been really good friends.
Yeah, I definitely think they would have been.
It's really neat.
It sounds like Mama Julia had this career and this family where she was cooking and, homemaking. So, what was the balance like of motherhood and that career? And you, both of you women, have businesses. What have you kind of taken from those experiences with Mama Julia and applied to your life as businesswoman?
I feel like the one thing my mum has always sort of said is you have to have your own thing outside of family in a way. Like, you have to have something that is your thing, and it's not about everybody else. And I've always had that message. And I think when I started our business when my husband's business, when I was first pregnant with my first child. And honestly, it was such a lifeline for me, because I think when he was born, I was so horrified, to be honest. I was like, I thought I really wanted this. And this is actually like, no thanks. This is so
really hard.
So hard.
And I can't give it back.
Who am I? And what's this all about? And I thought this was the thing, but maybe it's not the thing. Like, I found it so hard. And I was so grateful to have that separate thing, because I think it really, I can't think of another word, but it was a real lifeline during that time. And I think my mum has really shown me, and this is something that my husband and I, we differ on slightly, but, people always talk about like, they're so busy and it's so hectic, but it is possible to maybe not do everything at 100%, but maybe you can work at, 30% and then also be with the family, like whatever your values are, wherever they may lie. But mine definitely, I did ultimately really want to be a present mum and, be around for the kids, but I also wanted to work as well. And it's really hard. Like, of course it is. It's a constant balance. And literally we were just discussing before we started our call, it was half term here last week. And I feel like I was doing everything kind of badly, but I'm still quite grateful to have both, to feel that it's not all on one thing.
Yeah.
And I love that your mom's such a great example too of the work-life balance thing for you, because I know that she didn't write her first novel till she was 57.
Exactly.
So it sort of goes to show that it doesn't matter what age you are. You can always follow your dreams. You can always pursue your career as a woman and thrive. And I think that must be what a tremendous role model she is for you.
That's exactly right. And that is something she absolutely believes in.
And change your goals too, because she was a journalist. And then you said, a lot of her success was with her novels.
Yeah.
So sometimes that success comes later when you pivot or change, or it's such a great lesson to women that you find your purpose at any age.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pops and I were just saying before the call started about that, just the idea that you can be whatever age. I mean, I'm 53 and like I was an actress and now I have this fragrance line and I produced the documentary and wrote a book, and Poppy has Eam, but she's also interested in some other stuff. And, you don't have to I feel like these days you can do so much more. You can pivot many times.
Whitney's 43. I'm 49. We started this podcast, a year ago. Our mother was the inspiration because when our parents divorced, she started a brand new career of, catering company at 55. So I love these moms that are showing us that we can do it whenever. I love that we're brave enough as women to just keep pursuing our dreams. And like you said, Whitney, like our goals can change, our dreams can change, and we can pivot.
Yeah.
It's really exciting. Poppy, tell us about your candle company.
So I think I said we started, it's called Eam, which stands for Elevate Your Mood. And basically they're 100% natural candles. And they have, because they're made just using essential oils. So they have like lovely aromatherapeutic benefits. So we started that when I was pregnant, essentially because for exactly what we were just discussing, I knew I wanted to work, but I also knew I wanted to not be like I was an agent before, trying to be like my dad, and it wasn't really for me. And I didn't want to be the person who was kind of like, it's 5 o'clock and I want to go and pick up my kids and I'm going to feel really bad about leaving the idea of that really sort of, it didn't appeal. So that's why we started it. So it's been a great thing to do through this time in my life with young children.
And Natasha, you have your fragrance, Natalie, that's in honor of your mother. It's amazing. I wear it. It's so good. And you're launching a new fragrance, right?
Yeah, I'm working on another one right now. But I was saying to Poppy, it's funny because our dad was a tea taster back a million years ago. And I think it's funny that both Poppy and I have these businesses that are based on scent.
Yes.
And fragrance. Yeah. So I don't know, we somehow through osmosis, we wanted to go down that path as well.
Well, we know Mama Natalie's signature scent is gardenia. What's Mama Julia's signature scent?
The Natalie scent.
Oh, really?
She wears
so
it.
Beautiful.
She loves it.
I'm not crying. You're crying.
I know. That's so sweet.
It's true.
That's
I promise it's true. She absolutely loves it.
I love it. I actually need to get some.
I'll send you some.
Okay. Or give it to Courtney and I'll get it next time I'm out there. Or we'll just have lunch when next time I'm out there.
Yes. I want a dirty sis.
Yes, you do.
All right. So should we move on to rapid fire wit?
I think we should.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do it.
Okay.
You start.
Poppy, what is Mama Julia's favorite saying?
Oh, we were laughing about this the other day. This is whenever she has people to stay, she will kind of get to about 5 o'clock in the afternoon and say, I just need to go and rest my personality.
And I couldn't agree more.
Love that.
Isn't it so perfect?
It's so
It is. It's kind of like, when like the kids, at least I know Courtney's kids, like they get that witching hour around like 5 or 6 and it's like breakdown and it's like, around 5 or 6, I guess that's why I need a cocktail, but I just really need to rest my personality.
Especially for extroverted people, I think you do need to sometimes sort of rest that personality. And it sounds like when Mama Julia's case, when she was putting on these beautiful dinners where it sounds like there's always guests involved, you do need to rest your personality sometimes to recharge, to be on for the next seating, as they say. I love it.
Natasha, do you agree with Poppy's favorite saying of Mama Julia's, that it's, I need to go rest my personality?
100,000%. And I actually say it now because now that we have this house by the lake in Michigan, we have a lot of house guests and stuff. And I just channel Julia the whole time. And I'll be like, okay, I'm going to go rest my personality now. Like usually around 4, or 5, like 5 to 7 is like downtime before dinner. And I think it's really important.
I'm totally
to have that time to just reconnect to yourself, go on a walk, meditate, whatever, take a nap, read a book.
That's just one of the best pieces of advice I think we've ever received on this show.
I agree.
Natasha, what's Mama Julia's go-to cocktail?
Well, it changes. It used to be a whiskey and soda before dinner, but I don't know. What is it now? It's whiskey and soda, I'd say.
It's a gin and tonic now.
Oh, no, right. Ooh. Now it's a gin and tonic. That's right. Yeah, it is a G&T.
Natasha, what is one trait that you get from Mama Julia?
I feel like I get a lot, but I would say kindness and patience and curiosity. That's 3.
Ooh, those are all really good.
And actually, the other one that's huge is optimism.
Yeah, that's true.
She's the true optimist.
What about you, Poppy?
Optimism is such a good one because I wouldn't say I'm a natural optimist, but I wasn't when I was younger. But as I've got older, I think that's really seeped into me. I think my mum, like, don't sweat the small stuff it's not really a big deal. You know, I think kind of knowing what
She
matters and
sounds
what
like she's
doesn't.
got some natural zen going on. Like she's
Yeah.
very cool in that way. What's her superpower, Poppy?
I would say making things happen. She just has this ability, like, even I was saying this to someone last week. She wrote a book called Frontline Midwife. She co-wrote it with a midwife who works for Médecins Sans Frontières, and basically goes and kind of delivers babies in Myanmar camps with head torches. And, you know, she's the most incredible girl. She's my age as well. And so 40. And she wrote this book with her when my dad was dying. I think it was a real sort of distraction for her. And it's such a good book. And
such a good book.
It really is. And last week she decided her and Anna, who she wrote it with, have decided to turn it into a play. So she had this couple over from Bristol, which is a local city, and they're super young, and this really cool couple, and they were all kind of brainstorming and workshopping this play. And she, you know,
So cool.
it was just, I just thought it was so cool that she's like 76 and she has this couple over and Anna over, and they're all doing this workshop for 2 days, and she's so kind of invigorated by it. And I think, you know, she makes those things happen. It's not by chance.
I love it.
Love that. That's so true.
That is. Natasha, what do you think her superpower is?
I think it's fearlessness. She just doesn't approach life with a lot of fear. She's just not afraid of things.
She sounds absolutely incredible, special, brave, just a true gem. And thank you so much for sharing so much about her today with us. This was really incredible.
It's been so lovely doing this, actually. Yeah. It's been such a nice thing to do. You've been so lovely to talk to. Thank you.
Oh,
really...
I want to come to Wales, or I want to come to Lake Michigan, and I want to make fool. And
yes, you guys are welcome.
Oh, love it.
You're welcome. And
I want pudding, chocolate, and then some vodka. That's what I want.
Cheese. I like that they throw cheese in there.
Cheese course.
Oh,
yes.
You managed to create so much warmth in a Zoom, like a video call, but it's such a lovely warm atmosphere. So thank you.
Because we're talking about food. I mean, there's nothing more, you know. And Julia created it sounds like the ultimate dinner table, and you both just are so blessed to have a mom like this in your life. So thank you for sharing so much about her with us today.
Truly.
Thanks, ladies. And I want to hear more about your mom, because I feel like I know her from listening to the podcast. I feel like we need to turn the tables and ask you guys some more questions about your sweet mama.
We'll have to
do that. Well, I want to make sure that all of our listeners can know where to find your candle company. Poppy, can you please let us know website or social handles that you'd want to share?
Yep, so we are www.eymnaturals.com, and then on Instagram we're just at EYM Naturals.
Awesome. And Natasha, tell us where we can find Natalie Perfume.
Yeah, so it's www.nataliefragrance.com, and on Instagram it's at Natalie Wood and at Natalie Fragrance.
And then what's the name of your book as well?
Oh, my book is called More Than Love. It was released by Scribner in 2020. And you can find that at your local bookstore, on Amazon. And the HBO documentary is streaming, I think, on HBO.
HBO, yeah. I mean, I've told everyone I know to watch it. It's so good. It's so good. So good. And it also gives a lot of insight on the incredible Mama Julia as well, and your whole beautiful family, and the love and support that is this, you know, your support around you. It's really beautiful. Well, we will end it like we always do with love you, love your show.
I love you. I love your show, Court.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Love you guys. Thank you so much. That was so fun.